li vorrei fare crescere nella, nella massima legalità, come sono cresciuto io, perché io sono un calciatore e non sono un mafioso.
The 2024 Euros are underway, which means unmissable action is on our calendars. But June and July are great months for using up their annual leave, and who wants to spend their holidays searching dodgy websites for low quality streams littered with ads? Enter Surfshark, the most easy to use and complete VPN service for amazing value for money, allowing you at the click of a mouse or touch of a screen to change your virtual location while giving you an extra layer of security so you can browse safely. I'll be in Spain for a few of the games, and what's watching England without Guy Mowbray's commentary or Lineker's hosting? But thanks to Surfshark, I can change my location in seconds to switch to the UK and use either ITVX or BBC iPlayer and tune in to the Three Lions. I've used Surfshark for a while now, and it's crazy how quickly you can get a whole new library of content in seconds. And with their 30-day money-back guarantee policy, why not give it a go? Especially given this code for an extra 4 months free. Go and secure your privacy with Surfshark now. In Italy's southern province of Puglia lies the town of Nardo, and at the peak of the scorching summer of 1979, Fabrizio Miccoli was born. As with any kid in the 80s, Maradona was the idol. And for Miccoli this was no different, mimicking him by the age of 6 while kicking about with the older kids who couldn't get near him. The scouts of the nation's major superpower invited the 13-year-old to the San Siro, convinced he was Italy's next big name. The young striker's numbers were exceptional, but the northern weather and cultural differences caused a crippling dose of homesickness that was enough to abandon the dream of every child in the country. Returning south, his boyhood team Lecce was the obvious choice, though it was with third-tier side Casorano that Miccoli chose to spend his final year as a youth player. It appeared to be a career suicide move to leave AC Milan for a club who'd never even set foot in Serie A, but for the teen, comfort was key, so only a 40-minute drive from his mother's, the Stadio Giuseppe Capozza was the ideal place to rekindle his fire. Debuting as a senior in the blue and red in '96, he was starting over in a place where minutes were guaranteed, and with them came the goals. Ternana showed interest, a club based in Umbria 700 kilometers from Nardo, but now bordering his 20s, Fabrizio's mindset had changed, and he was now ready to escape his comfort zone, determined to chase stardom. For 4 years he fought in Serie B, growing in confidence season by season, and as his place in the team became more secure, the Salentino's stats became ever more impressive. The new millennium marked the start of the comparisons between Miccoli and one of the pillars of Gli Azzurri. When out wide, his style of dummying and curling his shots around the keeper reminded onlookers of one Alessandro Del Piero. So having finished 2001-02 with his best tally yet, there was only one natural move. In the June he turned 23, the Nardo native flew to the foot of the Alps, signing for Marcello Lippi's Juventus, a second shot at the Juggernauts. Having just lifted a 26th Scudetto, their squad wasn't just stacked, but proven, so Il Mister made him wait for his debut, loaning him to Perugia for his first top-flight minutes. Back in Umbria, he took no time in making a name for himself. A goal 50 minutes into match day 1 showed I Grifoni all they needed to know. 5'5", Miccoli at first glance offered little physical threat, but a direct runner defending him was no cakewalk, because much like another striker of his era, he was stocky and broad, and when he smelled blood, took no time. After a few more months and many more goals, the media picked up on it too, dubbing him the Romario of the Salento, a generous but not far-fetched nickname. A right foot to watch out for, range wasn't an issue either, and Italy appeared to have another complete young attacker on their hands, calling him up to the seniors mid-season. Miccoli's period with Perugia was a massive waving green flag to the Bianconeri, who eagerly brought him back to Turin. Here, he came to realise what playing for the top teams meant. His game time was sliced in half, used as a reserve for David Trezeguet and the skipper. It was a role he filled very well, as every time he was subbed on, the 24-year-old would give his all, and almost guaranteed a goal when on the team sheet. Just about hitting double digits, Lippi had no complaints, yet a trophyless year and opening with the national team saw the manager swapped for Fabio Capello, an infamously opinionated guy who Miccoli clashed with. When the coach welcomed Ajax's Zlatan Ibrahimovic, the dressing room got crowded, so Capello dismissed the southerner. The door closed on Della Alpi, but opened on the Franchi as newly promoted Fiorentina were on the search for a number 9 to keep them afloat. Miccoli announced himself as the man for the job. Suiting the purple of La Viola, he was back to starting 90% of games, and with the trust of the legendary Dino Zoff, the son of San Donato kicked off another great year in the shin of Italy's boot. Still an opportunistic savage in the face of goal, the pocket bomber pounced at every chance he got, saving Fiorentina repeatedly across the months with some screamers. Despite the sprinkling of quality across the squad, Viola seemed destined for demotion. But against Brescia, an opener from the 11 lit the fire underneath the team, who fought for their salvation and escaped the relegation zone with a 3-0 whitewash. He'd proved his worth yet again, and left Firenze a cult hero, but still a player Juve couldn't seem to figure out. They shipped him off abroad this time, loaning him to the Lisbon-based Benfica. The homesickness bug returned, and it was an unremarkable first campaign in the red strip. Despite glimpses of trickery and one particularly brilliant goal, the stats were subpar and the champions failed to hold on to the crown. Still, it was a World Cup summer, and Totti's injuries meant Lippi needed as many second strikers as he could get a hold of, so Miccoli was seen as a shoo-in. However, he testified against Juve's general manager Luciano Moggi, who was accused of meddling in player relations during the Calciopoli investigations that led to the old lady being stripped of their title, and handed Moggi a lifetime ban from football. The link between Lippi and Juve had grown strong in his years at the club, and so Miccoli was left out of the squad that went on to win the trophy in Germany. His time as an international came to an abrupt and early end. His time on the pitch hadn't been up to standard, yet Portugal appealed to the Salentino, and feeling the fans' embrace, he extended his stay in Lisbon. 16 goal contributions and frequent moments of magic made for a memorable campaign that found the number 30 a place in Lusitanian hearts, one he still holds to this day. 2 years off his native soil was taking its toll on the Patriot, so when the offer to return to southern Italy came in the July of 07, he joined forces with Palermo. A different story to today, the Sicilians were going through a purple patch. Having been promoted in 2004, they finished 6th and then 5th twice on the bounce to earn qualification to the UEFA Cup. For a little over €4 million, they signed the 28-year-old, his first transfer in half a decade, and alongside the Brazil native Amauri, Miccoli found his home. Roaming as a 9.5, he was able to flex his creative muscles in the pink and black as the pair tore up the top flight with quick exchanges and a telepathic sharpness. In the scorching sun of Sicily, a new life was breathed into him, and Miccoli started playing how he wanted, almost freestyling on the pitch. Palermo endured a fall from grace, which cost them the services of Amauri. This didn't matter though, as in his place they'd found a striker to fill in. The breakthrough star of Uruguay, Edison Cavani, was only 20 years old, but had the aura of a pure number 9. The tall target man type, he was more textbook, while the stubby Salentino was bordering 30 and had a more sleep when you're dead attitude, so not many would have predicted the pair's chemistry to be quite so electric. Either a false 9 or winger, Miccoli was the magician and Cavani was the killer. The Italian was much more than a provider. Whether curling home a free kick, nodding in a header, or smashing away a long shot, Miccoli was showing just how complete his game is, and matching El Matador's 14 goals, the duo became one of Serie A's main attractions. As well as his performances, a leadership quality shone through, and fans loved him, so there were no complaints when Palermo made him captain ahead of the 2009-10 campaign. Settled amongst his people, he found solace in the south, with no fear of the new responsibility, and in his 30s he hit his apex. Composed from 12 yards and lethal from 30, he was still experimental but in a more composed way, which only made him more prolific as L'Enquiries chased down the European spots. However, during their penultimate fixture of the season, they drew 1-1 with 4th place Sampdoria, who were able to seal their spot in Palermo's stead. For the equaliser, Miccoli had been fouled to aggravate a knee injury that cruciate ligament surgery sorted over the summer, but this wasn't a first time. His body was hinting that it can't go on forever. Cavani headed to Naples, bringing this glorious union to an end, and though the Romario of Salento continued to make the net ripple as the sole striker, he wasn't as fit as he once was. Relations between he and club president Maurizio Zamparini had been strained after a poor year, and the loss in the final of the Coppa Italia that May only exacerbated things. Now the club's all-time leading scorer, the forward, despite the injuries, his age, and the weakened team around him, bounced back in a way no one saw coming. From a double to beat Inter on the opening day, to 5 assists in 180 minutes, to a hat-trick at the San Siro, the 10 was enjoying his last dance in the pink.
Fabrizio Miccoli tripletta!
Covering as the centre forward, Miccoli was thrashing shots away from all sorts of angles, left and right foot, not to mention his set pieces or intricate through balls. Ending the year with 30 goal contributions from just as many appearances, his place amongst Italy's great 10s was solidified. Palermo were clutching on to the top flight for dear life, and without their MVP, relegation would have been unavoidable. Zamparini was investing in their future, but wasn't addressing their immediate problems, which came to bite them as the new campaign got underway. Miccoli was doing all he could, even volleying a champagne moment against Chievo.
Miccoli! Un gol straordinario! Fabrizio Miccoli! Ma che fenomeno!
Ultimately, Palermo was a club in ruin, not fit for Serie A, and the fairy tale came to an end in tears as a finale at the Stadio Renzo Barbera was Il Capitano's last appearance for the Eagles.
Cosa ti porti e cosa lasci a Palermo? Porto tutto, tutto, dal primo giorno che sono arrivato fino adesso tutto, non lascio niente perché tutto quello che ho fatto l'ho sempre fatto col cuore, sempre, quindi non c'è una cosa che non mi porterei con me.
The relegation, contract release, and farewell to Palermo was just the beginning of what was a disastrous summer for the 34-year-old. A government investigation revealed his involvement in Mafia affairs, firstly buying a new SIM card from Mauro Loricella so he could stay in contact with his father, a wanted mobster. Then, to repay the favour, Miccoli had asked him to collect money owed by the owner of a nightclub, with the alleged implication of violence. The city's anti-mafia unit had wiretapped his phone to ascertain this info, but the worst was to come. A Sicilian judge by the name of Giovanni Falcone, who was assassinated in 1992, had been a prominent and cherished figure in the fight against organised crime. So when tape emerged of the player calling him filth, Miccoli's divorce from the city of Palermo was ratified.
Sono qua per quello che è uscito a prendermi le mie responsabilità e chiedere scusa a tutta la città di Palermo, a chiedere scusa alla mia famiglia. Io sono contrario a tutte quelli che sono I pensieri della mafia.
With his image in tatters, the free agent was advised to leave the country, let alone Sicily. But when the offer came his way to sport the red and yellow stripes of the club he cheered for as a boy, the outcast jumped to the 3rd division. Inside 2 years in Lecce, Miccoli was somewhat able to paint over the demerit on his footballing record with a swan song to calcio, adding 19 marks to his career tally with the sort of two-footed finishes and wondrous free kicks he'd earned a reputation for. Described as a real ultra, you could tell the honour he felt leading out I Lupi for those 49 games, and by the time of his farewell to Lecce, the full circle feeling was a perfect way to punctuate his playing career. Mavericks aren't uncommon in the tales of Italian football, and often the off-pitch activities can overshadow their job. Though in almost every case, the crazier the character, the finer the footballer. Crazy wouldn't be the word for Miccoli though. The striker from San Donato wasn't a red card happy fighter, nor a partier who missed training. His issue was trust. Trusting that speaking out against one of the most powerful figures in Serie A wouldn't cost him in the long run. Trusting that having ties with a mafioso wouldn't come back to bite him, and trusting that the citizens of one of Italy's most crime-plagued cities would simply forgive him for trashing a hero. Maybe a partial victim to the poor PR that sports people once had, there's no doubt that Miccoli's silliness has put a blemish on his otherwise fantastic career. One of the most talented in the post-Baggio era, the idol of Palermo got his credit late in life. But giving his all from Florence to Lisbon to even Malta, Miccoli was never anything but brilliant, wearing his heart on his sleeve for all he tried out for, and collecting along the way a group of cult fans who still remember the stocky Apulian for his genius, not his gaffes.